And welcome back to another episode of the Navs Effect podcast. I'm your host, Naveen Ganglani. It's a Wednesday night. We're recording this October 22, and we just had a pair of interesting games that took place at the Mall of Asia Arena for the start of the second round of UAAP Men's Basketball Season 88. The FEU Tamaraws pulling off a big win against the Ateneo Blue Eagles. FEU now 5-1 against Ateneo the last three UAAP seasons. And then the UP Fighting Maroons right away making up for their defeat against DLSU and securing another victory against the NU Bulldogs. NU has only two losses this UAAP season in 8 games, and both those losses have come against the UP Fighting Maroons. So is UP NU's kryptonite? I guess right now you have to point towards yes a little bit given the results of the games. Joining me once again on this podcast is Karl Batungbacal. He will be talking about what's going on with Ateneo. They won four straight to start the season. They've now lost four straight. And what can we take away from that FEU UP game, or rather NU UP game, FEU's win, UP's win, that we should right click save as in terms of data for the rest of the UAP season? Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Okay, we're now joined by Carl. Carl today, ladies and gentlemen, has asked me. I'm not sure if he asked me, but I'm going to do it anyway. He has asked me to inform all of you, especially those who remember the last time that he was on the podcast, that he has had his coffee before today's recording, which means he will not put UST at number 5 in his power rankings anymore. Carl, I kind of matched you in terms of the caffeine. I went with my matcha, my favorite matcha latte, or rather iced matcha from Cooper's. Cooper's, by the way, for those of you who don't know, just opened a branch in Alabang recently, and they're currently working in opening their BGC branch, and they've got quite a few options, including the brown butter latte, which I also highly recommend, and the matcha and the ube latte. So you guys go check that out. But Carl has had his coffee at home today. He's ready to go. Carl, so you're energized, huh?
Yeah, definitely. Let's get this going. What you got for us, Navs?
I like that. Okay, so let's start with you. I want to hear your thoughts. I mean, the season has taken a 180-degree turn for Ateneo after that game against LaSalle. I myself went on the record and said it's time to seriously consider Ateneo as legit championship contenders. Since then, it's been a little bit, well, not a little bit, quite the downfall. Not downfall to the point that they're out of the picture in terms of being a Final Four contender for the season, but the red alert is definitely ringing right now to some degree. Maybe not so loud that everyone can hear it, but someone is playing with turning it up and down, on and off. You know what I'm saying? Now, we have to be fair. It's not just that Ateneo forgot how to play basketball. Although if you look at Kimani Ladi's stats over their last four losses, you're kind of wondering what's going on there, right? But they've also faced injuries. Jared Bahay injured his shoulder in the triple overtime loss to UST. And Divine Adili has also missed the last two games. Bahay returned against FEU, played 13 minutes. Adili is still out, and it's quite uncertain yet when he's going to be back. Your Ateneo is kind of like in the same situation they were last season, where they don't really have an FSA now. With all due respect to Balogun and the Balogun Believers Club, which was started by members of the Navs Effect community, um, I think fair to say Ateneo played a lot of basketball last season almost like without an FSA because of how little they trusted Balogun. And now with Adili out, it just leaves a massive hole for opponents to exploit. And we saw Mo Konate tower in the boards in earlier's game. But to add to that, too, teams have started to scout the 3-2 zone that Ateneo likes to use a lot. You see a lot of movement in the baseline more, particularly with FEU earlier. Ironically, Jork Bautista's dagger came from the corner. And at the same time, too, I think not having Bahay on the court means having more Espinosa and more Lazo. And while those guys can contribute in their own ways, they're not the ball mover that Bahay is. You know this, Carl, and those who have watched basketball long enough know that no matter the basketball league, there are just some guys that when one certain guy's on the court, the ball moves better for a team. And that's the case for Ateneo with Jared Bay. He might be a game manager, but he's one hell of a game manager. And yes, he returned today, but we also saw he wasn't in top form yet. And they kind of need him a lot more than I initially thought that they would, especially if they want to bounce back quickly from this 4 game losing streak.
No, definitely losing Bahay, I think, or at least not having Bahay play extended minutes in this game. You mentioned he played only 13 minutes. He scored what, 3 points, 1 of 4 from the field. There was a lull, I would say, in Ateneo's offense, but the thing was early in the game there were flashes of brilliance, not just from Jaden Lazo or Ian Espinosa, but more on Waki Espina. The focal point of Ateneo's offense somehow, for whatever reason, it became the Waki Espina game. I did not expect him to show up versus FEU because I was hoping that the focus would be on getting Dominic Escobar going, which he did, kay Maniladi going. That was the expectation. But to see Waki Espina crashing the boards, getting in the paint, shooting over Mo Konate from time to time, he was the guy who kind of carried Ateneo for the big chunk of the game. Now, early on, the problem there was without a sufficient point guard or a capable enough point guard to replicate what Jared Bahay is doing as a floor general for Ateneo, it looked like the offense was running off of, sige, bahala na. Random motions, do whatever you can, try and pass the ball around. Whoever gets open, take the shot. Now, we saw that with Kyle Ong later in the game during the clutch moments, but we'll get to that later. So, it's the
Kailong's
Waki
a nice
Espina game.
guy, man.
Hey,
Kailong's a nice guy.
ako personally, I'm a Kyle Ong believer. I hope he makes the shots, but he made he made 2 3-point attempts that were ill-fated or ill-advised in the clutch when the game was getting very, very close, for too close for comfort for Ateneo. And I think that stems from a lack of someone to direct the floor. Jadam Lazo, great shooter. Point guard skills are somewhat there. Ian Espinosa, reliable backup. Personally, one of my favorite guys on this Ateneo team because he hustles so hard, plays defense the right way, a total pest. But they're not of the caliber of Jared Bahay. Not having Bahay there to direct everyone, they just look lost for the most part.
Well, first on Kailong. If he continues this trend of being an Ateneo backup that makes a lot of people and the Ateneo fans kind of nervous, that means he's going to be the number 1 pick in the PBA draft a few years from now. If you get what I'm saying. Because before Gio Chu was the number 1 pick in the PBA draft, let's not forget, many of you are nervous every time he entered the court, okay? But Gio Chu is a champion. Let's give him the respect that he deserves. Now, the thing that I really like about Bahay is first, he's a pull up threat. So in ball screen action, if the opposing defender is going under, Bahay is gonna take the 3 point shot. And we saw against UST when Akoya was going under that Bahay could be dangerous once he gets in the flow. And there was this one play earlier in the second quarter. It was very simple, normal basketball play, but just a microcosm of how good Bahay is to me in terms of decision making and pacing. He had an open shot in the wing. Could have taken it. It was open, high quality shot. Looked like he was gonna shoot it, and just right before he's about to release the shot, decides to flip the ball to the corner. I forgot. I think it was Espinosa who was in the corner. Espinosa drills the corner shot. That kind of play, it's more than just 3 extra points you put on the board. It kind of motivates the rest of the team and sends this subtle message, subconscious message of, okay, let's move the ball, let's be selfless, let's trust each other. And you saw that Ateneo really missed that the last time they played against NU. Now, because of Lazo's shooting and some of the individual plays of guys like Tuano, they still had the chance to win that game against the Bulldogs. But today, they had a chance to win against FEU too. They were up 4 late with a few minutes left in the fourth period after Tuano makes that 3. And then Jorg Bautista happens. Konate starts rebounding. So it's more than just Bahay, right? But he almost is like the head of the stake now, especially with how Ladi is. I wouldn't say he's off. It's just opposing defenses are kind of learning how to prevent him from getting the ball better, right? Because when you look at his field goals today. Kimani Ladi, only 4 field goal attempts. And it's not even like that's because he had more free throw attempts. 0 of 2 from the line. Very, very weird for a 94% free throw shooter. But just 4 field goal attempts in 27 minutes. This is the best player on the team. Now, Dominic Escobar took 16 shots, was only 5 of 16. And he had 9 rebounds and 6 assists and 4 steals too. So he was contributing in other ways. But the defenses are basically saying, we're not going to let Kimani Ladi beat us. We're going to let the other guys beat us. And it's easier to employ that strategy as well when you're facing a team without an FSA like Divine Adili, because then a guy like Ladi, who I think naturally is more of a wing when he was playing basketball in the States, is forced to play bigger than his size. And that just kind of throws everything out of proportion.
No, when you look at Ladi in the past 2, 3 games, at least dating back to the UST matchup, the triple overtime thriller, Kaimani Ladi was forced to contend with the size of Colin Sakoe. That threw him off his game in that matchup because he was tired on defense and then you expect him to make the threes. Personally, I was hoping that someone else would take the threes in crunch time or at least to win the game. But it happened already and the play was drawn up for him. We can all see that. But now Ladi has been checked. We can admit that. It's it's like every defense in the UAAP has focused on Ladi not to get him the ball. It's a ball denial defense. It's very, very simple concept in basketball, but very, very hard to execute. And you can see that earlier with FEU because for most of the game, when Ladi was on the floor, there was always someone on him, whether it was Kirby Moncopa, whether it was Joric Bautista, or even Salangsang, there was always someone on him. So making sure that that the ball never gets to Ladi in the first place, it just throws him off his game. Eh? You can see in his face, his body language, the swagger was not there. The swagger has been missing from Kaimani Ladi, and I can't blame the guy because opposing teams know who to target. And it was up to everyone else to step up. And we had Dominic Escobar doing that, Waki Espina, Sean Tuano to a certain degree, even Jaden Lazo. But at the end of the day, when your best player or your top one and done player only has 4 shots in 27 minutes, that's not a recipe for success. Remember, in the first game versus FEU, Kaimani Ladi was the key piece to getting that victory in the opening day. But now that they've checked him, who steps up? I don't know.
So, just a quick recap of Kimani's performances in this 4 game losing streak of Ateneo. Against UP, 15 points, 6 of 15 shooting. That's okay, I guess. Versus USD, 14 points, but 4 of 21 shooting. Against NU, 9 points, 2 of 13 shooting. And then this was the weirdest of all because of the lack of shot attempts. 4 points on 2 of 4 shooting. So overall, in the 4 game losing streak, Kimani Ladi, 14 out of 53 from the field for 42 points. It's very inefficient. Teams also have realized that he loves going for that jump shot. It's his go-to move. And he hasn't been putting the ball down enough to get to the rim to make the defense change. It's almost like the defense is getting comfortable guarding him because they know he wants to go for that pull-up shot. And if you take that away from him, he hasn't quite, displayed the counters yet, which surprises me too because if you look at his off-season performances, there are a bunch of games he was driving to the rim, getting to the paint, finishing against taller guys. Ultimately, though, Ateneo's not going to get far if they can't get Adili back. Even just 12 to 14 minutes of him providing extra rim protection, providing another presence on the boards. FU shot 45% from the field. And out of those 29 out of 64 field goals, only 5 were 3-point makes. So a lot of the other shots were inside the arc. Now, Ateneo, on the other hand, shot 37% from the field. They did shoot 8 out of 27 from downtown. 30%, that's okay. 6 of 13 from the stripe. FU 12 of 17 from the stripe. So the free throw disparity there kind of coming in. Rebounding FU 42 to 41, just a 1 rebound advantage. And the turnover battle 11 for Ateneo, 10 for FEU. But FEU seemed much more patient with their approach, especially once they started getting in a rhythm. And Bautista, what's good about Bautista is we're seeing a more aggressive side of him that we didn't really see early in the season. One of the things I was wondering about the Tamaraos in their early first round performances was okay. Janre Pasaol is taking a more aggressive time to take over approach, and Mo Konate is Mo Konate. They're gonna try to get the ball to him inside. He's gonna try to score in the paint, try to rebound, try to protect the rim on the other end. But if FEU can have a two-head monster at the guard position, Jorik and Janre, they become much more dangerous. And Jorik admitted after this game today that he noticed he wasn't being aggressive enough. And the way he was able to rediscover his mojo, according to him, was he was more aggressive on the defensive end. He took those matchups more personally. Now, don't get me wrong. He also said having 3-in-1 coffees before games also helped him out. So, I would like to suggest to Jorik to try Coopers, maybe. Although Ateneo fans might not like that. That might mean even more dagger three-pointers. But Jorik, let me know. If gusto mo try Cooper's coffee, I got you, bro. Um, but at the same time, too, genre is still remaining genre. And that is what's exciting if you're an FU fan is they can coexist together as aggressive playmakers. You see this in a lot of teams where you have two lead guards or two lead ball handlers, and if one's aggressive, the other kind of takes a back seat. It's what they call the first year of the Wade LeBron syndrome, where if you remember that first year in the Miami Heat 2011, they had a lot of your turn, my turn. It wasn't more like let's figure out how to work this out together, and it was only by their second year they figured it out. So quietly, FEU, I was wondering if this was gonna be a plot line for the season where it was like Janre starting to establish himself as the main guy and maybe Jorik takes more of a supporting role. But the last few games, Jorik Bautista has proven, and rightfully so, that he is willing to take shots because he can make the big shots and he can make plays and he can make contested turnaround jumpers, step back three pointers. And Janre Pasol was no slouch too. Jorik Bautista ended up having 20 points on 8 of 15 shooting. Janre Pasol had 15 points on just 9 shot attempts, 7 of 8 from the charity stripe, 13 assists, 5 rebounds, 2 steals. When he found out he had 13 assists in the press room, Carly was like, oh, talaga? 13? Even he was shocked. And Coach Sean Chambers said after the game that during FEU's offseason trip to Sacramento, Jan Ray ironically impressed Kent Bazemore, former NBA player for the Warriors and Lakers. Kent Bazemore, by the way, accepted their Instagram collaboration request when we posted a video about Coach Sean saying that. So he was legitimately praising John Ray Pasaol. So you just have to be excited if you're FU. And by the way, Jork Bautista, he has another year. He can come back next year. You imagine Pasaol is going to be much more confident even next year after the way he's playing this season. And Bautista's gonna be in his fifth year, and we see what fifth year guys can do. Just look at UST. And then Conate's only gonna get better. And Moncopa, the funny part is Moncopa feels like the afterthought in all of this. He had 16 points, granted 7 of 18 shooting, but 9 boards, 3 assists, and 3 blocks, plus 6, and he's 31 minutes. And he's not gun shy. Let me tell you this, Carl, when Kirby gets the ball, whether he's in the corner, whether he's in the wing, whether he's inside, that ball is going up. He is not afraid. And that is a product of the culture Sean Chambers is trying to establish here. He's telling his boys, look, play defense, compete on defense, get stops, and I will trust you to be who you are on the offensive end because I know how talented you are. That was his message to Jan Ray and to Jork. He said it in the post-game press conference too. I told these two guys, I want them to be more active defensively. I want them to take the challenge of being better defensively. And they took it. And as is often the case in basketball, when you start seeing results on defense, naturally your offense just improves.
That's the thing with FEU. Actually, before the season began, I wrote a preseason piece for FEU for Humble Bola. So when we made our preseason assessment for the teams, I had FEU as a Final Four or at least a fifth seed this season. So the the focal point, or at least the person that I wanted the piece to focus on, was on Joric Bautista, because Joric Bautista, if he's confident enough, if he has the mentality, everything hinges on him. Because John Ray Pasaol, you know what to expect of him, na eh. In a way. Kirby Moncopa, he's the supposed rising star that's about to come up in the UAAP. But Joric, for God's sake, Joric is what every FEU fan should be hoping for this season. Like this level of Joric Bautista, who's super confident, taking every shot that he can, he had 4 of 11 threes today. I don't care. Those of those four, he made three in the clutch versus Ateneo. So that speaks to the level of confidence that Joric Bautista has in himself right now. And if you when you mentioned about Coach Sean Chambers instilling the identity that he wants from them on defense, it's clear. Kitang-kita mo on the court. You can see the results. Joric's just shooting, John Ray's just passing him the ball. Technically passive si John Ray for a bit in this game because he let Joric take the reins. And
Cook.
I'm happy for the guy. I'm very, very happy for Joric because this is one of those performances that personally I'm biased about because I can see FEU taking this all the way. May momentum na sila eh. Like even in the first round, their losses are not as bad as it looks. It's not tambak eh.
Yep.
They just had some
Combined
close calls.
points against Ateneo, UP, LaSalle. That's how much they
See,
lost
so
back against those three teams.
that's the thing. They could have been at least in the final four race by this point if they won those games. Pero let's not talk about the past. Let's talk at the future. If you keep Joric Bautista as this main guy, as their main shooter, and you have John Ray Pasaol operating as his point guard, and then you have Kirby Moncopa playing the role of a glue guy who can practically do it all on both ends of the floor, and then you have Mo Konate manning the paint, taking his shots, blocking away opposing shots. FEU is scary. They're starting to put things together, and it's criminal how little focus we have on FEU this season.
Now, if they can get more contributions from the bench, I think that would make them more of a legit Final Four contender. Because you know this, Carl, that eventually when they face teams like NU or UST or UP, those teams are going to try to take away the main guys and tell other guys like Jaden Jones, like Salangsang, like Felipe, Neil Owens, okay, you guys beat us. We're not going to let the other ones beat us, right? But to be fair, they did stay close with these other teams in the first round, like you mentioned and like I mentioned. So imagine if they had the bench to step up. Neil Owens has proven in some games that he can. If they can consistently do it, then that is what's going to make them a Final Four contender. Now, I've been saying since the preseason that I think FEU is a year away from being a Final Four contender, but I also think that they're going to mean a lot of close games this season. I said that during the preseason, and so far it's proven to be true. The nice thing about FEU is, I'm sorry for this comparison, but they're not UE. You know, they're not UE. Which you with UE sometimes you just wonder, when are they gonna fold and eventually it's gonna be a loss, right? Now,
Mm.
granted, UE keeps some games competitive, just not all the time. FEU keeps things competitive almost all the time. The only game they've really been dominated was that NU game in the first round, their second game of the season. But other than that, they've been competitive all the way through. So you know they're gonna be down two or up one or down three with 4 or 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. You can be guaranteed it's an exciting game. And I can tell you this too, that FEU team believes their time is now. They know they're going to be good in the future. They know they're going to be around for a while, causing headaches, as Sean Chambers said, causing problems for the rest of the UAAP. But their mindset is also, why not now? Now, FEU backer, Mr. Anton Montenola, someone who is one of the most upstanding and best guys you'll find in the UAAP. A few weeks ago, he went up to me after an FEU game. No, actually, not a few weeks ago, just last weekend after they beat. Who did they beat last weekend? They beat UE, right? And then he went up to me because in my preseason prediction episode, I said FEU was going to win 4 games. He says, Naveen, we won 2 games. We're going to beat your 4 games prediction. And today he saw me again and he just smirked. And I just smirked back, gave him a fist bump. And I was like, I think they might actually beat this. They have a legit chance to beat this because I think they're going to beat UE again. And that means they would just need one more win and they're going to get to 5. Now, even if they get to 5 or 6 for the season, and even if they miss the final 4, I would still count that as a very encouraging campaign.
No, because FEU, a lot of talk about FEU was, let's be honest, losing VJ Pre was the big headline for FEU this season, or at least in the off season. That was the talk, and everyone started brushing off FEU as a threat because supposedly, well, it was a big thing that VJ Pre was gone or left
He was the
FEU.
rookie of the year. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was expected that okay, we won't pay attention to FEU, pero that's the thing. Everyone's ready to step up. At least from what I've seen so far into the UAP season 88. Joric Bautista, thank you. You're stepping up. I'm happy for you. Completely tumutugma yung sinulat ko for the preseason and I'm so happy that it's coming true, especially John Ray Pasaol stepping up. Mo Konate still being a double-double threat. Kirby Moncopa, man, you're a rising star. FEU, may ano may future. And you cannot deny that from the Tamaraws.
You know what though? I saw a message earlier in our Navs Effect community group chat, which was like, I forgot who sent it, but the message was, imagine if Pre and Moncopa were playing together. And half my mind was like, wow, Pasaol, Bautista, Pre, Moncopa, Konate, what a five. That's a five that can compete with anyone in the UAAP. But would Kirby Moncopa have the green light and development he's had this season if VJ was still there? They play kind of similarly, same position, same spots that they like to attack. And don't get me wrong, if you have the chance to keep both guys in the roster, you obviously go for it. But I think not having VJ has kind of helped Kirby develop faster because more is on
Mhm.
his plate.
Yeah, he's finding himself. I think that's the thing. The confidence to shoot or to at least be yourself is there because you're asked to step up and your teammates are counting on you to step up. So Kirby, he saw the challenge and he's taking it head on. So his performance against Ateneo today, 7 of 18, 38.9% from the field, that's fine. Pero the thing is, when you see him crashing the boards earlier today, battling kay Manila, the Escobar inside the paint, it's an encouraging sign for the Tamaraws as the season progresses.
I can't wait to see more from FEU in their next game. The UP fighting Maroons, if I'm not mistaken. So you want to test to see how good you are right now, FEU? Here it is. You want to be talked about with the rest of the leagues and rest of the contenders right now this season? Well, okay. You beat Ateneo. Now beat UP. Now beat LaSalle. Beat NU. We're waiting. We want to see if you can do it. Coach Sean Chambers, I know you'll be listening to this. I want to see you guys do it. All right, let's get to the next game. Carl, the UP Fighting Maroons are the kryptonite of the NU Bulldogs, apparently. Now, we should give credit to NU before we talk about UP that they rallied from a 22 to 4 deficit. You want to talk about slow starts? NU start was miserable. That was just bad. They were able to cut it to as low as 3, but you have to give UP props as well in terms of even as NU rallied, unlike the game against LaSalle, where because if you rewatch that game, UP was in control in a lot of situations as well, and they had the chance to close the door on LaSalle in that fourth period, but they didn't. They kept letting LaSalle come back second quarter, the third period, and then again in the fourth quarter, and then eventually you let the team hang around long enough, they make 1-2 extra plays, they win the game, right? That's what happened against DLSU on Sunday. This time against NU, kita mo, gigil ka agad sila and they start to get off on the right note to send the message. And Harold Alarcon, I mean, there's a lot to take away, particularly how UP did a good job having Omar John come up in the perimeter and guard Alarcon or Remagot in pick and roll situations, which left roles for guys like Yanni Stevens to attack, which force NU to rely more on their weak side help defense from the low man. But my ultimate takeaway from this was a showcase of Harold Alarcon and how good of a ball handler he has become, how good of a playmaker he has become. Now, trust me, the stats won't really dictate it because Harold was shooting a lot. In the 78 to 74 victory of UP, Alarcon finished with 24 points, 7 out of 19 from the field, but more points than shot attempts, which is efficient. 8 of 10 from the free throw line, 2 of 7 from downtown, 4 assists, 3 rebounds, plus 4 in 24 minutes. He was sensational in the final quarter. The amount of ball screen navigation he forced guys like Paul Francisco and use other perimeter defenders to navigate through was dizzying. He was going left, turning right, going in, coming back out, and then biglang, okay, now I'm gonna go back in since you came out. Oh, you're going back in to anticipate my drive. Okay, I'm just gonna step back and take this 3 pointer. Oh, I got two guys on me now. I'm gonna slip in this pass to the rolling Gianni Stevens for a layup or for him to get fouled. It was a game that displayed how deep his bag is. And it was a game, especially with the way Figueroa was playing too, which made me realize some of these wings in the UAP right now are going to be sensational pro players in the next level. And Harold Alarcon reminded everyone that if he's not the best among the wing options, he should definitely be up there in the conversation because he has the full package.
Well, where to begin even with this game, you started out with UP. The thing with UP that I noticed, them and Ateneo had the same game plan in their games today. Ateneo's game plan was to get Mo Konate out on the perimeter to defend whoever had the ball or whoever was going to take the shot and then leave him on an island. UP had the same exact game plan. Omar John was more than happy to take matchups on the perimeter for whatever reason. God bless his soul. I don't know why. He's more of an interior guy. I respect his defense, but please stay on the interior. You're needed there more because you have guys like Kenshin Padrones to a certain degree, Paul Francisco to guard the perimeter. You have Jake Figueroa for that. Just stay inside. But for UP, to see Harold Alarcon be willing enough to take the contact inside, split the defense repeatedly, and make the tough lay in, that's full props to Harold Alarcon for this season because they need that takeover guy. I've said this in the how many times I've been on your podcast, Navs. UP has been looking for that takeover guy. And it was a conversation that Harold Alarcon is not that guy. Because for whatever reason everyone saw Ray Remoga to be that guy. But in this game versus NU, Harold Alarcon was more than happy to be the focal point of the offense whenever things were stagnating for UP. Now, Raylan Torres had 10 crucial points
Oh, he
whenever
was
NU
big.
was making a run.
His defense on Figueroa for 3 quarters was. I felt tired for Jake. I mean, the fact that Jake finished with 60, what did he have? 16, right?
18.
The fact that he had 18 with the defense Raylan was like playing on him was just a credit to how good Jake is too, but also a credit to how good of a defender Raylan is.
No, full props to Raylan for even getting Figueroa to less than 18 for how many quarters. I think the only time that Jake Figueroa became a complete and total factor was in the third and fourth because UP had a full pressing defense in the first half. It was kind of reminiscent. Well, it will be blasphemous, but it's slightly reminiscent to the Aldin Ayo full press defense, the mayhem defense that you guys would call it at that time. That was the first half. And you flipped the script in the second half because UP suddenly, for whatever reason, couldn't find their groove. They lost everything. They lost the momentum after halftime. So NU was able to make UP pay for their high pressing defense with some long bombs on the passing lane. So NU off the back of Jake Figueroa's gravity, you would say, and then Kenshin Padrones would make some crucial baskets there. But the most impressive person on NU, let's talk about TJ Palacielo for a bit. He was
Mm.
making easy work of Francis Noruka in the post. And I don't know what the height difference is, but it was substantial on the broadcast. Francis Noruka, I know he's an offense mainly guy, but PJ Palacielo, he was getting moved in the paint very, very easily by PJ Palacielo. So that's full credits to Palacielo to even keep NU in the game, especially in that crucial third quarter run they had.
I felt that some of Francis Naruka's impatience cost them the game against LaSalle. Some of the decision making, particularly that late drive. In that situation, you just have to know you got to get the ball to Alarcon or Fortea or maybe even Remogat, right? Make them give your team the best chance to tie or win the game. I didn't find it surprising that UP had their best closing stretch without Francis on the court against NU. They went with Ghani at the five. The floor spacing was much better. The movement of the ball was much better. And it wouldn't surprise me if we see more of that moving forward. I'm not saying that UP doesn't need Naruka. They'll still need his scoring inside, these athletic plays, particularly those dunks that wake up the crowd. But in terms of will he be there on the court all the time in terms of closing the game? I'm not quite sure. I think we'll see more of Gani at the five. Just my guess. One more thing I should mention about UP is if you look at some of their losses, they've only had 3 losses this season. They're now 5-3. They have a hold of the third spot. They'll be tied with DLSU if DLSU beats UST over the weekend. But there are 3 losses: DLSU, Adamson, UST. Right? What's common about those 3 losses?
It's not even the lack of execution on UP's part. Eh. I can't say that because the effort is always there and the execution is always there. It's just that at the time they crumble, there are times in the crunch, or at least in clutch time, UP suddenly struggles for whatever reason, and I don't understand why.
They tend to have a harder time against teams with playmaking guards than wings. Adamson, Montebon, Ray Allen Torres, Erolon. That game against UST, it was more of a Kowe because the Kowe was just dominant. But if you remember, also Paranada had these moments in that game too, right? And that was a game that Nick Cabanero struggled in, ironically. More on that in a bit. Against LaSalle, Cortez was keeping LaSalle afloat in the first three quarters of the game. LaSalle's offense looked so bad without him on the court. And then the fourth period, UP finally said, enough is enough, Jacob. You are not beating us. We're going to put three people on top of this zone. You pass the ball. And they almost won that game until Abadam and Marasigan made some hustle plays. But against teams with quality wings, like your NU, Figueroa, Manansala, like your Ateneo, Ladi Escobar, like your who's the other? I mean, I'm forgetting right now. But against teams where the attack depends a lot on high quality wings, UP has a better chance because they have two superb perimeter defenders in Baila and Raylan Torres. And Alarcon is kind of a wing defender from time to time, too. If you notice against FEU as well, UP won that game, but FEU gave them a hard time because Bautista and Pasaol were making plays, right? They have a harder time against teams who have quality playmakers and a quality big man. Like a Lasal, Michael Phillips, Jacob Cortez. Like an FEU in that game, they were challenged, Konate and the guards. Adamson, I think Manzano had some of his moments, and UST with the Koe, like we mentioned. Now, it's not exactly a glaring weakness for UP. They can still win games against teams with top notch guards and high quality bigs. But as we get to the deeper stages of the second round of the elims of the UAAP, you start looking at okay, which team is a good matchup for whom when it comes to the final four. And if UP ends up drawing a team like NU or Ateneo, one of those two squads, I think they would have a better chance of making it back to the finals. That's not to say they would lose against the other teams, but if they faced against Ateneo or NU, I think I would pick UP in the final four.
And I think that's fair because UP's strength is having those shutdown wings. Or in football, you would call those shutdown corners who can just take away the field, who can shorten the field. In this case, you have Raylan Torres to do that. You have Jacob Violet to do that. And then to a certain degree, like you pointed out, Harold Alarcon. Then you have Mix Iniguez, who's putting up quality minutes for UP, especially on the defensive end. And then Gani Stevens on the perimeter at times, even inside. UP's length is a massive problem. As in the length in terms of wingspan, because mahaba yung galamay and it's a key part of being an excellent defender, being able to use your wingspan to make your guy go where you want them to go. And usually with what UP does is you have someone to guard the point of attack, and then they kind of try to funnel him to a double team with another lengthy wing guy. So you always need to have a Jacob Baila or even a Gary Abadiano from time to time. You're
Gary,
gonna
you
need
mean
those
Jerry,
guys.
right?
Jerry, sorry.
Are
See?
you sure
Coffee again.
nag-coffee ka?
Yeah, nag-coffee ako, bro. Short,
Gary
baka kulang.
Abadiano.
Gary Abadiano. UP's gonna kill me again for this.
You know what? You know what?
Anyways.
Against LaSalle, Jerry Abadiano was in the first quarter. And I think the last three quarters it was Gary Abadiano because I don't know why Jerry did not get the ball anymore. You know, given how well he was playing that first quarter, how did he not get the ball as much? Anyway,
I was surprised with that too. Because I
it's
was
because
hoping
it's
Jerry.
because Gary Abadiano ended up playing.
Man, how many times do I have blunders on your podcast, man? This is the
No,
third
no,
time?
it's cool. I think people expect it now for a comedic relief. Um, let me ask you this. Oh, and by the way, just my last note. Sorry, when it's the wing players of the other teams attacking against the wing defenders of UP, that means the guards can swipe the ball here, swipe the ball there, play a little
Yep.
more of that safety role. And once the wings get the stops and the rebounds, those guards are like, whoo, up.
Yep.
I mean, away we go. Run like the wind, bullseye. So something to keep watching out for when it comes to UP. If you're NU panic meter 1 to 5, what is it? Is it too
NU
early?
panic meter?
I'm just saying,
What?
what if? What if? Okay, I'll rephrase the question. If you're
Okay, sige.
NU, let's just say hypothetically NU finishes 12-2 or
Mm.
11-3, but they face UP in the final four. 1 to 5, what's the panic meter?
I would say the panic meter is just at 3 or 2.
Against UP?
Against UP, yes. Because the fact that they were able to come in and close the gap on UP in the second, third, and fourth quarter, if they did not score 6 points in the first, NU likely would have won. I don't want to say
But it's a
potentially,
four
or
quarter game though. It's a
but
four
that's the
quarter
thing.
game.
No, that's the thing. Kaya
How
nga,
about the
if
first game?
NU,
Remember the fourth quarter of the first game, and you didn't
okay,
have a field goal until 25 seconds left in the fourth quarter.
and I can give them that kasi elims eh. It's the first game of the season. Well, first matchup of the season. Adjustment time to eh, in the second round, and then especially into the final four. I think it will be close. I think NU can win that.
Here's the thing about NU I noticed too. First of all, Yumamwe did not play this game. We should
Mm.
mention that, which meant more Tebol Garcia. And I was really high on Tebol Garcia coming out of high school. In fact, when I found out he was like 80% going to Ateneo, by the way, at one point. He was gonna form a 1-2 punch with Jared Bahay. Ended up going to NU. And there's a lot of talent. But you can see some of the struggles progressing from high school to college, especially if you're not a tall, lengthy guy. It takes time. I mean, Yumamo is in his third year, I think, or fourth year, and it's only really this season we've started to see him really improve, particularly in a very systematic dynamic like what Coach Jeff wants to run. But some of the turnovers of Garcia, and you could see Coach Jeff in the bench's reaction, like, what were you doing? There was one key turnover. I think NU was down 6 or 4, and Garcia tried to get the pass to Omar John, but Omar John wasn't even looking at him yet, and it ended up being a turnover, easy 2 points the other end. And the coaches were just like, come on, right? So that backup point guard spot, I can't even say backup point guard spot because sometimes Nash starts but plays backup minutes. NU, that's one area they need to work on some more. They need the guards to be more consistent and they need to take care of the ball. I mean, Carl, if I told you before this game that one team would shoot, okay, first of all, both teams made 27 field goals, okay? UP made 3 more 3 pointers and one more free throw. But if I told you before the game, both teams would have 27 field goals, one team would shoot 48% from the field, one team would shoot 43.5% from the field, you'd think the team that shot 48% would win, right? And NU's done this a few times. But the turnovers, NU cannot be a turnover team. They cannot. They're not a run and gun team. And when you turn the ball over more, it's gonna give the other squad the chance to get easy buckets rather than them having to play against your incredible half court defense. They had 19 turnovers and you did. Now, granted, UP had 18. It wasn't that much better, but high turnover games kind of to be expected from UP now, the way they play. They're organized chaos, shall we say, as Steph Curry and the Warriors mentioned earlier. That's not NU. NU is not organized chaos. NU is organized basketball on both ends of the floor. And if they face UP again, they need to make UP play more their style, which was the first 3 quarters of that game at UST in the first round, not the physical, organized chaos that UP and other teams like a UST would like to play with.
I mean, even to a certain degree, how NU fought back versus UP in this game, it wasn't even a comfortable comeback eh. You can see that NU was struggling to make a play or even make a breakthrough through the UP defense. And that's full credits to UP's defense because this is one of the more lengthier teams in terms of wingspan in the UAP this season. So they're gonna use that to full effect. Now, you can see where NU sorely missed to a certain degree Humamoy in this game. Because Tebol Garcia and Jolo Manansala combined for 10. Am I reading this right? This is 10. That's 10 of 9 of NU's 19 turnovers, and that's like what you pointed out, not acceptable for a Jeff Napa coach team. Now, the problem with the point guard position is you don't know if Steve Nash Enriquez is gonna catch fire. That's the greatest thing I've noticed with NU this season. It's like he will be good in some games he will struggle, but you're not quite sure, or you cannot quite predict who he will struggle against and who he will shine against. So that was one of the more glaring problems for NU in this matchup.
So I've been telling this to people who've asked me, do you think NU is going to be a championship contender? My response is they have the potential to be one, but we've kind of also seen this before. Remember season 86, the year LaSalle won 2 years ago. NU was 7-1, if I'm not mistaken. They won 7 of their first 8 games, and then they stumbled at the end of the elimination round, going 500, 3-3. And then they got blown out in that final four. They've done this before where they start off strong, then they tail off at the end. And that's why I was very intrigued how they would respond after halftime despite being down double digits. Will they fight back and make this a game? They did. At, at the point there in the fourth, I was like, wow, they're actually going to do this. NU is going to rally from behind and take this victory and kind of get over that hump, that UP hump to some degree. Because UP, yes, NU has played them well over the years, but UP has had kind of like that mental advantage over them in some of these matchups. And then at the end of the game, you saw them kind of collapse. Not a big collapse, a mini collapse where turnovers, they let UP get what UP wanted to run on offense. So let's see how NU responds. Their game on the weekend is Ateneo. And it's going to be so interesting because Ateneo is, I wouldn't say they're desperate, but the panic meter is higher than what it was. That urgency is higher to end that losing streak. Imagine going 4-5 after starting the season 4-0. I don't think Ateneo wants to do that. And if you're NU, you don't want this to turn into a losing skid, especially with the way you started your season strong. So that matchup is going to be something to watch out for. A lot of fun matchups this weekend. I'm not sure about Yui Adamson.
That's gonna be fun. It became close in the first round.
For like 2 minutes.
Yeah, it was. It was a heart attack game for a while.
I'll end up watching it. I feel like people will watch it too and watch it for different reasons. But let's see how it goes. Will Yui get their first win, right? Or will Adamson keep this going? We'll see. We'll see. LaSalle UST, obviously a big game for different reasons. Is what we saw from LaSalle last Sunday the norm now moving forward? The rest of the elimination round. UST lost to Adamson in a very sloppy fashion. Will they bounce back, or will this also be a bit of a skid? And then we got UPFU, right? And Ateneo and we've talked about why those games will be critical. Okay, one mailbag question today since we don't have a lot of time from JP, Mr. JP Manahan, Mr. Best dot school dot ever dot. Um, so are those who believe in the faves should still believe in the faves? JP, rare typo, man. What's happening? You also need some Cooper's coffee at night, JP. Okay, JP wants to know essentially, Carl. Those who believe in the faves, and by faves he means favorites, which he always refers to the UP Maroons, should they still believe in UP being the favorites this season? Personally for me, I don't think there's a favorite this season just because of how balanced the top of the UAP is. I feel that any of NU, UST, LaSalle, Ateneo, UP could win the championship. How about you, Carl?
It's weird because this season I entered it expecting UP and LaSalle to be atop the standings. To be
Yep.
quite honest, that was the expectation. But now, parang walang favorites bigla. To be quite honest, aside from the meme, it is quite weird. This season is.
It's so weird, but in a good way. And by the way, I meant Ateneo assuming they're healthy with Adili and
Mm.
Bahay back to, it's not 100% at least close to it. Otherwise, I think it might be hard for them. But the parity is wild. When was the last time we had a season like this?
It's definitely not the third Ravenna era of the UAAP. Not that one.
I think you'd
Not the
have to
Ben
go
Embala one.
2013, the year after Ateneo's
13.
five peat.
Who was that? Was
Because
UST LaSalle and
yeah,
Ateneo?
so LaSalle, NU, and FEU finished with identical 10-4 records. NU was number one. LaSalle and FEU had a virtual best of three. And then the fourth seed was a playoff between UST and Ateneo, two teams that faced injuries that season because Jarek Teng got hurt for UST and Kiefer Avena got hurt for
Right.
Ateneo, right? And then UST won the playoff. And then as a four seed, they upset NU, and I'm not even sure you could say upset because with Jarek Tang, they were really a good team, a top one. So it was like a one versus two matchup for NU in the final four, which UST won. And then LaSalle beat FEU. And then LaSalle and UST had an epic 3-game series, which went all the way. So yeah, I think it's been 12 years since we've had a season like this.
It's been crazy. It's really been crazy. I didn't expect na it would be like this entering the round and entering the second round at the very least. Akala ko may separation between one and two, and then everyone killed each other for the fourth, third, and fourth spot. Pero hindi eh. 2, 3, and 4 are as close as 5, 6, and even 7 to a certain degree.
This feels like a season where the one seed is gonna get the one seed via tiebreaker. Two versus three are gonna have a playoff, and four versus five are gonna have a playoff. It just
It
feels
does feel
that
like that.
way,
It does feel that way.
man. And what a season that would be! All right, so thank you to everyone who's been listening. Carl, let's end the podcast episode with a Life Corner segment. Your first ever Life Corner debut on the Navs Effect podcast. I'm excited to hear your
Ooh.
story. What's your Life Corner for today, Carl?
Well, for today, this wasn't super recent. Happened last year, but it is one of the biggest moments of my life. So last year I turned 28. So don't guess my age. Obviously, I'm 29 now. Why did I even say that? So I'm 20. Who cares? Anyways,
You just
why
you just set yourself up there, man.
exactly? Comedic relief. Anyways, now I turned 28 last year, so I joined a raffle at the Championship Belt Collectors Philippines Facebook group. So it's a group for those who collect title belts in the WWE mainly. So I joined a raffle for a full replica title of the United States title, and the
Of
buy-in was
John
at
Cena, the one
500.
that spins back in the day.
No, no, the newer one, the one that's up
Okay,
now
okay.
for the men. So I spent 2 5, so that's 5 slots in the raffle. Out of 100 names and numbers, I got it. So right
Wow.
now, here we go. Yeah, here we go. Flex it. Yep, there it is. So my 28th birthday to myself came by way of a raffle. It's a birthday gift. So I got lucky. I'm super happy with this because I've dreamed about this since I was a kid. I don't have that much money. Sports journey does not make a lot of money. For those who are interested, you have to work hard. So a lot of freelances along the way, a lot of heartbreaks along the way. And to me, that this is what the title represents. Just a lot of heartaches. Because just a little bit of background about myself. I've lost my job twice or thrice at this point. So to have that to have that job at the time to give me this an opportunity to even win this, so it means a lot to me. So I keep it around myself whenever I feel down, like the past few months, because I lost my job again a few months ago, but I have a new job now. This means a lot to me, so I've been holding on to it very, very tightly. And shout out to Sir Alvin sa floor. Thank you for the raffle. I got lucky in your raffle, and this really, really means a lot to me. So yeah, a lot of heartbreaks along the way for this one.
That's fantastic though. I'm happy that you got a job. You deserve a job. Is your job also sports journalism full time, or now you're doing it freelance?
Right now I'm doing it freelance. Now I'm a content creator and I'm just a consultant for some organizations. So yeah,
Awesome. Well, it's good to have a constant paycheck for sure. Good for you, Carl. And I'm happy you got that belt. So how many belts do you have in your collection?
just this one.
So that's your first.
First
Hey.
ever. Not even the toy belt, not even the yung knockoff belts.
So
This is really
so
the first.
so she's your first, huh? Have you spent the night together yet? You and your first?
Nah.
Not yet. When's the big You take her to bed with you? Have you
Nah,
given
bro,
her a
just look
name
at.
yet? Have you given her?
Nah,
Are there?
I just look at it. I just look at it, dude.
You're just gonna look at her. Okay,
Hell
okay.
yeah.
Wait, do you refer to the belt as a her, a he, an it, a they, a them?
Nah, I'm not call it an it. I just call it an it because it's respect to it. It's a title. It's gold. It's super heavy actually.
Why not
It's
her?
as
It could be
heavy.
like your baby.
And I already got one, so she might kill me for this.
Oh, oh,
Ah.
oh, oh, my bad.
Nah, it's all
Sorry.
good. It's all good. Nah, it's all good. She knows. She was actually supportive about this, so I'm
so,
happy.
so now you're like, hey, baby, you wanna touch my belt?
Yeah, she has to carry this one time, honestly.
Like, go on, give her a spin.
No, it's actually the new one. So for everyone who has to see the whole thing, this is how it looks. This is the men's US title.
So I'm gonna need
There
you
you
to
go.
just like pull up in one of the UAP games coming up with that around your waist. Just pull
Brother.
up.
All right. So full disclosure, I am fat. I'm a very big boy.
Come on, don't say that. You're just,
The
you're a
dude, the
hearty
title does
boy.
not fit. The title does not fit on me. I cannot carry this around for like 6 hours, 8 hours in a day.
Okay, you know what? When I get you Coopers, it's gonna be straight up black, Americano. None of that sweet stuff for you. At least not yet. And then eventually, gotta
I'd
start
love that.
somewhere.
I'd love that.
Um, Thank you for sharing that story, and I'm happy for you. I used to love those belts when I was a kid. I used to watch wrestling when I was a kid. Always wanted the World Heavyweight Championship that was all gold. That looked so sick. And also, low key, what was really nice back in the day was the Intercontinental Championship. It had the
The
blue
Randy
with it.
Orton one. Yeah.
Yeah. I used to find that so badass. I think I might get a belt eventually too. I think I might join that group just to get one belt. I
Brother,
I just
it's
might.
in Green Hills. Check out Green Hills if you have the time.
And in Green Hills you can find everything. Ironically,
Honestly.
the only thing you can find are actual hills in Green Hills. So no lie, my sister like went to Green Hills the other day. I was like, cool, send a picture of you with the hills. And it was her first time in Green Hills. She had no idea. So she's like, wait, where do I find the hills?
But man, I understand the pain because I was like, Green Hills, nasaan yung hills when I was a kid, ah? Like,
Yeah,
why do
exactly.
you call it Green Hills? Like, I don't get it. I was
Anyway,
a child.
innocent times. So for my life corner segment, so if you guys have been following the podcast and you all in the Navs Effect chat know this, I moved into the house recently, right? And there are different variables when you move into a house and live in a house. One of which is the eventual interactions with neighbors. I'm not sure if you agree with this, but at least compared to when I was living at my condo slash apartment, I barely saw my neighbors. Sure, I'd see them while waiting for the elevator, say hi, hello, but it felt like they had their own world and I had my own world, right? But in the house, it's different. Even if you're in your room, you can kind of hear what's going on sometimes. Okay, nothing that crazy, right? But like you can kind of hear what's going on there, what's going on downstairs. You can hear someone shouting downstairs or saying stuff. So anyway, neighbors. And when you live in a village, you have to be mindful of where you park your car, right?
Yes.
And the number one rule is you don't ever block the driveway entering the garage. So, a few days ago, I'm about to leave for work, open the gate, about to leave, and I notice the car of our neighbor is parked halfway through the garage driveway. So I'm like, there's absolutely no way I can move the car. Now, I noticed that this was the third time this had happened. The first two times I just noticed from the window of my room. So I was like, okay, I'm not leaving now anyway. I don't have to think about it. But this third time, okay, now I'm leaving the house. It's the morning. I gotta get to work. I'm already late. I still need to gas up my car also. That means I'm gonna be even more late. Let's get a move on. So I honk my horn. One time, two time, three times, nothing. I'm like, oh come on. So I get down, I go doorbell the neighbor's house. I'm like, excuse me, yung kotse nyo, hindi ako makalabas. Diba? Kasi nasa driveway namin.
Mm.
And I even said, actually, pangatlong beses na to. Like with that laugh, which is like, I'm trying not to be mean, but I'm trying to make a point here. And I kid you not, the reaction of the person I'm talking to was like, ay. And when I hear that ay, I'm like, oh no. Oh no, here it comes. And true enough, she tells me, wala yung driver, may pinuntahan. So first thing I ask immediately is, okay, is there anyone else who can move the car? And she was like, wala po, sir eh. I'm like, what? So at this point, you just know in your head, right? Like when something like this happens, you're like, okay, stay calm, resolve this peacefully. They're
Yep.
your neighbors. You don't want anything to happen. You don't want to say something that's going to cause animosity for a while that you're eventually going to have to fix anyway. Stay even keel. But then slowly by slowly, it just kind of builds up, builds up, builds up. So I'm like, okay, would you mind borrowing or lending me the keys of the car? I'll just move it myself. Comes out
Gets?
with the keys, comes out with the keys of the car. I try it. Doesn't work. It's not the right keys of the car. So I'm like, oh, for the love of God. I tell her, pwede mo i-contact yung driver, please. Late na ako for work. Kailangan ko umalis. So she does. And she's like, oh, pabalik na. Kumakain lang. I'm like, what? What? So at this point, I'm pissed. Okay, I am mad. I'm like, you know what? When this driver gets here, I'm gonna give him a piece of my mind. I'm gonna tell him he can't do this anymore. Yada yada yada. Comes back like 10, 12 minutes later, and he comes and he has a smiling, apologizing face. He's waving at me, and I'm ready to go. Right, I'm ready to go. But something stopped me, Carl. Instead of like giving a pseudo lecture, I was just like, I just sighed like that when he arrived, let him move his car, and then went about my day peacefully. And you know what, Carl? I will allow myself to say I am proud of myself for keeping calm at that moment. Because anyone who's experienced the same thing knows it can be quite annoying when that happens. But not long term, big picture. I do not want animosity with the neighbors. We have just moved in. I'm going to give myself a pat on the back for that.
A peaceful conflict resolution is super key for neighbors when you live in like in an HOA. You have to be
Yeah,
nice to everyone. You can't get mad eh. Or at least magtaray. You can't be super mataray to your neighbors. Cardinal sin yan.
exactly. Exactly. And you know what, dude? The house we moved into, my wife now, we used to live here when she was a kid. We just
Oh.
remodeled it and then we moved. Yeah, exactly. So she's coming back to her childhood home. So our neighbors to the left and right are literally people she knew since she was a kid. So that added more context, which is like, okay, that's even more reason not to start like an argument, right? And when I go for runs around the village, I'll see them. I'll definitely see them again a few more mornings from now. Lo and behold, yesterday morning I tried to move my car out of the garage. The car was blocking the garage again. but
The same exact thing. Yun pa rin.
but this time, thankfully, it just took me like two beeps for them to move the car, and I was able to get out. So progress.
Swerte mo, the driver was there.
I know, I know. The
Oh,
third
man.
time, I'm not sure if I'm gonna be as peaceful, but I probably should try to be.
Nah, you should keep it peaceful, man. You really gotta you gotta try to be peaceful. Keep the peace, man. It's where you live, eh.
Exactly,
Yeah. Pero
exactly.
fun
Anyway,
experiences though.
adulting, man, adulting.
Adulting.
The little things.
Oh my
Carl,
god.
thanks so much for joining me. Do you have anything coming up you want to tell the people about?
Right now, I'm not doing anything much. Just check out my socials. I'm back to being a photographer for Humble Bola. So check out the Humble Bola. Check out my personal page, Karl Batungbacal, or on Instagram, BlackManBito24. It's a high school name. Don't ask why. But yeah, that's it for
That's
me.
his wrestling name. When
That's
when he
my
wears his
basketball name, actually.
when he wears his belt at night with the speedo and the boots and the arm pads.
Brother, I wish I can like put this belt around my waist. Dude, I'm too fat for this. I'm too fat for this.
No, come on, man. You're not. You're not fat.
Nah.
You just maybe need to run a few more times a week, probably. But
Nah,
you
I
can
need to
fight.
cut. I need to cut eating. That's it.
Why are you over? Are you eating too much sugar?
Nah. Actually, no. I've been trying to cut my sugar.
So what
Going
have
good
you
so
been
far.
eating? What have you been eating? A lot of rice.
A lot of carbs, man. It's been a stressful couple of months, you know.
You just need to add up the
So
protein then. Maybe lift some
I
weights a
know.
few times a week and just add some grilled chicken in there.
Actually, I do. I do lift weights every once in a while, but I do take. I do have a meal replacement for my morning, so it's away.
Do you play hoops?
Sometimes, yeah. When I
Ah,
have free
okay.
time, yeah.
Well, you're gonna play with us more, so we're gonna get you in the mission to make that belt fit, so you can wear it at night
I would love to.
when it's WWE. What about your entrance music?
My entrance music, dude. I'm an Adam
Yeah,
Cole fan. If anyone knows who Adam Cole is, that's my guy.
is he related to J Cole?
Actually, no. Actually, no.
Probably should have figured that. Carl, thanks for joining me, man. Have a good night. I'll see you soon.
You too, man.